Hello and welcome to Goldberg at Large, the world's most eclectic podcast on Substack and YouTube. This time I'm delighted to welcome proud Northern Asian provocateur John Robb, author of the best-selling Oral History of Punk, the definitive biography of goth, leader of two fine bands, the Membranes and Goldblade, the man who launched Manchester's Louder Than Words Literary Festival, a Zelig-style character who managed to be here, there and everywhere at the birth of grunge, the dawn of the Manchester scene, the advent of Britpop, the go-to man for TV producers in search of a well-informed cultural commentator. And his autobiography, Punk Rock Ruined My Life, which is a brilliant read, is out now. John Robb, welcome. Great to speak to you, mate. And, reading that book, you're pretty much a contemporary of mine. And in the same way that punk rock ruined your life or saved your life and made your life, I feel very much the same, because for some people, punk rock was a straitjacket. It was a way of looking, which they've clung on to for 50 years ever since. For others of us, it was an inspiration. And I think you and I both, in our different ways, took that sense from it that it was all about do it yourself. You've got to be the author of your own destiny. Fair comment?
Yeah, I think so. I wish you told me that a month ago. I could have put that in the jacket of the book. But it was that, wasn't it? Because what you realise, and as a decade rolled by, there's a certain, there's a certain narrative, isn't there? And there's a certain people allowed to have the narrative, whether it's music, writing, journalism, TV, whatever. And you either just let them have that narrative or you create your own, don't you? So, I mean, we dabbled in and out of these things. Sometimes we're on the inside of this narrative, and sometimes the stuff we're interested in will never get written about or recorded, or the music we want to hear doesn't exist, so we have to make it ourselves. And I learned that from punk, and that you're pretty well on your own, creating your own world, and you can't wait for other people's permission to do stuff, to create stuff, because it'll never happen. So if you're in a band and you wait for a major record deal, the chances are you won't get one. But why should that be the be all and end all of being creative? Or, if you want to write something or record something, and this is the great thing about the internet now, of course, isn't it? Because it does provide a platform for voices. But we came from that time when the internet didn't exist. So in a way, we were like a primitive version of it, wasn't it? It's like, if you explain to somebody who's much younger now, what a fanzine was, it was like it's like a print version of a website, or as a website, a digital version of a fanzine. So, and I loved all that as well. I thought that was the singular greatest revolution of punk rock, was that you didn't wait for permission. You just went ahead and did it. But I think you could do that in lots of different fields, So, if I have to go and speak to Blackpool Council, I do stuff for Blackpool, being an ambassador of Blackpool. And I say to them, why do we have to wait for permission? We can just go and do it anyway, So it's not necessarily cultural. It could be, it can actually be political as well, can't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It is that sense of always easier to ask for, what's the phrase? Always easier to apologise than ask permission. I don't know. It's something of that nature anyway.
Yeah, but I totally get what you're saying there, because it is, isn't it? I mean, also, you don't really apologise. You should never apologise to your art. If people don't like it, it's tough, isn't it? You're going to make it anyway, aren't you? It's you can't contrive success. That's the other thing as well, and that's what I learned. It's really difficult to, if you're working in music, it's really difficult to make a pop record. It's a skill, it's a craft, and it's as much of a craft to make a brilliant pop record as it is to make Trout Mass Replica. And I know a lot of people in the underground are quite snooty about pop music and think anybody can do it, but they can't. It's really difficult. Punk was really difficult. I mean, that's why I learned starting in bands. We thought it was all level playing field. We thought the Clash were just like us, getting their clothes out of Oxfam, and had no idea how to tune guitars. We didn't realise that they were just another branch of the tree of show business, but in a good way. I mean, I'm from Blackpool. I have no problem with showbiz.
Yeah, no, but that's true, isn't it? And I think a lot of the mythology of punk was about getting up and just doing it, and you realise quite quickly that the first generation of bands, anyway, were actually a little bit more savvy than that. Many of them had got experience in other bands. Some of them had contacts in the music biz. They were clothed by people who were proper designers and all that sort of stuff. And really, with the long view, it doesn't really matter. But I think you and I, But we
You know,
took it
mate,
at face value and said, "Oh yeah, we can just do it
yeah.
too." And there
Anyone
was
could
it
do
was
this. Yeah, we'll
yeah.
just get guitars and we'll just have a band. We didn't realise you had to tune them up. We never even heard of
Well,
tuning up. We didn't know what chords were.
literally, in your case, John, it was an amazing story that when you first gigged, you didn't know what tuning pegs were.
No, we put them in a row because we thought that was that's tidying these things up. It was just a horrible racket, but it was a brilliant gig. It was pure punk rock, undistilled punk rock. It's funny now, you meet bands now, old punk bands, and they talk about, oh, you've got to get it done right and like be on musos. And I don't mind virtuoso, it's fine, but it's not the be all and end all. You can't lift the bar to get in so high that no one can get in. And that was great about punk, was that anybody could get in. Scrawny, nervous kids who had no idea how to make music, but loved music, could get on the stage and play. And it would sound terrible, but it was amazing. It's amazing that they actually did it. And that was us. We were clueless, but I celebrate the clueless.
Well, you know what? I always think of this in terms of religion. It was like the change from one church to Protestantism, and it's like punk rock was the Martin Luther moment. There were a lot of bad things about Martin Luther, but I also think in some ways he was a great man because he kind of said, you don't have to listen to these authorities up there, be they the music press, be they the virtuoso musicians. It was like the change from, music being delivered to you in Latin to reading the Bible in your own language. And it was like, oh yeah, we can say things too. Yeah. And it's not the same as that, but it's ours. And almost by definition, by virtue of it being ours, it has a value.
I like the idea of having it in Latin. Maybe our next home could be in Latin, because that's the thing. Either there's all gloves are off. If you want to make a punk rock album in Latin that's totally out of tune, who's going to stop you? To me, it's about the idea. If the idea is intriguing, you just go and do it, don't you?
Yeah.
And that was singularly the great thing in punk, wasn't it? I mean, apart from all those original bands, even though they weren't as DIY as we were all completely brilliant. They were amazing bands who wrote amazing songs. It was a great period of pop music. That's another thing. When people think it should be underground, to me, punk was always pop. The Pistols were one of the greatest pop bands this country's ever produced. They had a #1 album. They changed the culture. They changed our lives, didn't they? If they'd been like some cool underground band just for like heads to be into, none of this would ever happen, would we? I'd be drifting around because I would never been a person who had a proper job type person, but I'd just be a drifter because. But I found my place. I found my fellow weirdos were punk.
Welcome home, John. The one thing that impresses me and amazes me, John, and I think is part of the secret as well of how you've continued to be such a vital force over the years, is your enthusiasm. And you have that enthusiasm for all kinds of music. And I kind of cherish the fact that you refuse to bow to cynicism. You refuse to bow to the sense that it was all better in the old days, which gentlemen of our age are prone to say, which I, that's I'm out when I hear that sort of conversation. But in a way, you've got to train yourself, haven't you, to say, look, this music today has got a value. Music today is precious and valuable as well.
I mean, it's a blessing and a curse being enthusiastic, isn't it? Because you do put your foot in it, don't you? You just go straight in, don't you? But I always say this in these talks, do people honestly think, in 100,000 years of human culture, from cave paintings to, digital art or whatever now, do they honestly think the only time the human race ever made any good culture was when they were personally 14 years old? It's just such a nutty idea, isn't it? There's always good culture around. If you can't tune into it, that doesn't matter either. Just say, I'm sure it's good. I just don't get it. Don't take it personally. It's just young people doing their thing, isn't it? Whatever it is. And, if young people don't want to make music now and do social media or do gaming, that's cool as well. It occupies the same space in the culture as what music did when we were younger as well. There's nothing worse than, can you imagine like when we were teenagers get to punk and your parents are giving you playlists of what you should be listening to? You don't want to listen to that. You want to listen to real music. It's like, fuck off, And that's what I liked about punk, because it was it could be very high art. It could be just low art, whatever those things mean. It could be naff and dumb, and it could be genius, couldn't it? And it could be something that appalled people because it's perceived as being a bit rubbish. But we knew it wasn't rubbish, didn't we? We could see through the nuances. We could tell the Ramones were pretending to be stupid. Well, some of them, but but I don't think the culture doesn't end, does it? It keeps going, doesn't it? And we're just passengers, and when we pop off, they'll just carry on without us, which is fine, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I listened to a podcast that I love, actually, The Rest is Entertainment, with Richard Osman and Marina Hyde the other week. And Richard Osman said, and I think he wasn't being kind of sneery when he said this, I don't think he was. We're living through a golden age of pop music, and my youngest daughter is 11, so we listen to a lot of Capital Radio in our house, and I hear stuff by people like Olivia Rodrigo. I think that's fantastic. And weirdly, Olivia Rodrigo references Just Like Heaven by The Cure in her last but one single, and her current single, coincidentally or not, is called The Cure. So it's also lovely to see these resonances of the music that we've grown up with still seeming to have a relevance now.
Well, Robert Smith played with her, didn't he?
Yeah.
So he got up for 2 songs. The only thing he's done for about a year and a half. My fellow Black Puddling, of course, I like to point out.
He only lived until he was 4.
He's very proud of it. Every time I see him, he will talk about it. We're the only 2 people they painted wall murals of in Blackpool. So you need to get Jethro Tull up there. He's way more famous than me.
And John, when we started recording in my little intro, I mentioned this kind of Zelig-like quality that you have. I know I'm not the first person to mention that, but it is incredible the number of scenes that you've been around at the start of, because you were writing, as I was, for sounds, but I think you were much better connected than I was. You were aware of the birth of grunge, the dawn of the whole Manchester thing, rave. You were close to Alan McGee, and it is amazing. And I think I would say this, in other people's hands, the book might feel like name dropping. It doesn't feel like it in your case, because you really were there and you were an integral part of all of those scenes, or a cross part of all of those scenes.
I think that is the key difference, really. And also, a lot of those people, when I'm talking about them, they weren't that known then. I was probably better known than they were. So it's the other way around. They just overtook me, which was fine. But it's like, but I was running on instinct, and that's why I really like McGee, because McGee runs on instinct as well. But he turns it into records, and he takes more of a gamble because he's got to put the things out, And I love that story of him discovering Oasis, just walking in a room, thinking it's the greatest band he's ever seen. I mean, most people in the music business go, yeah, they're good, but nobody likes that kind of music. And panic, but he'd never panic, would he? He'd just go, yeah, I'm putting that out, so what? And I operate like that with lower stakes because I'm not putting any money into it. But you do stick your neck on the line when you write about a band, don't you? I remember writing about the Manics really early days, and everyone would just laugh at you, wouldn't they? They just think these fans completely ridiculous. You can't like them, So you are like, you're sticking your neck out, aren't you? Basically, every single thing you ever liked, especially if you make a lot of noise about it, because you had to shout a lot of competing voices, didn't you, to get things out there? Like, as you remember, like, although those sounds was great. One of the great thing about sounds was it would allow you to write about music they didn't necessarily like. They just trusted you, and probably you as well, Adrian. You could go in there with the band, and they go, "What are you writing about?" But you could have a half page or a page. Sometimes I would say a page too much. There should be half page of this. Let's build it up. So I was right, but I thought you don't want to hype it up too much. You just want to put the little flag out there, then get moving on it, innit? So yes, and I was fascinated with culture, all pop culture. I like being in spaces of culture where I don't really get it. Obviously I'm guitar, bass, and drums, what I grew up with, and that's probably my core. But I'm just as happy being in a drum and bass space or a rave. Went to a lot of raves in the 80s and that late 80s, 90s, and that. And I like being in places where everything's turned upside down or different. You have to work out what the hell's going on.
Absolutely. John, one thing, again, I think this is a defining feature, something that comes through a lot in the book, and something that you've never lost. And I think it's to your great credit that you've never lost it. And again, perhaps a source of affinity that I have with you about this is that sense of outsiderishness. Now, if people look at the the kind of the list of people that you've known, the artists that you've worked with, they might think, oh, John Robb, he's connected. He's a man right at the centre of this web. But from very early on, from your origins in Blackpool, your sense was that of being an outsider, somebody who had to work to make connections and to develop connections. It wasn't given to you. And I think even though you have moved into the centre of things and you are this kind of go-to cultural commentator, that little bit of Blackpool outsider, the kid from the kind of slightly jokey seaside town, has never left you.
No, and I'm actually proud of that now. It's frustrating growing up, but now I'm an ambassador of Blackpool, and they made me an ambassador. So I'm one of they have a few sort of roving ambassadors, and also they're going for City of Culture, and I'm right in the middle of that. I'm on the board, and I'm going to make it happen. I think we will get City of Culture, because all those things I found suffocating when I was younger, I love them now. You know, I think, to me, the illuminations and stag and heads, all that kind of stuff, that's culture. It's culture as much as Picasso, you know, different type of culture, isn't it? I think the great thing coming from Blackpool is you can't be snobby. You can't look down on people. It's the great thing about Blackpool is the leveler, isn't it? You know, and I love that. You know, it's a melting pot of madness, isn't it? And it's a town that was built to make people feel good, which is a good thing, isn't it, in a sense? And it's unique. And what a weird place to come from. You know, if you're from Manchester, people go typical Manc, or you're a typical Scouse, or from Liverpool. What's a typical Blackpudlian? No one can work it out, can they? So I'm fascinated by all that. And I really like all that. But I also like the outsiderness. And when I wrote the Goth book, I realised so many bands came from weird small towns and created culture in a vacuum. So Bauhaus, who I totally love Bauhaus, one of my favourite bands, put a band together as esoteric and brilliant art rock as that in a small town, Northampton, in the middle of England, where there was not any tradition of bands like that at all. There's no one to go and ask how to do it. You just had to make it up as you went along. And in a way, that's what makes the best bands, isn't it? The ones, I feel sorry for the bands in London because they're under pressure from the music business, and they sort of rub together loads of other bands who are desperately trying to get a deal, and it becomes a race to get a record deal. And you know, if you're an outsider in a small town, especially in the 70s and 80s, you're probably never going to get a record deal. So it didn't matter what you did. You mostly did what you liked. and perversely, you ended up with something that people actually wanted in that kind of way, innit? So I was, and a lot of the greatest music's made by outsiders, isn't it? And the people in the scenes, people go to the gigs, all outsiders. It's interesting because people sometimes say to me, "Oh, I'd love to go to more gigs, but I don't like going to gigs on my own. I feel like everyone else knows each other." So look, trust me, I've put gigs on, and every ticket sells in ones. You don't get 6 people all at once going to a gig. One. You wish it was 6 each time. Everybody's going on their own. Everyone's on their own at a gig. So all you have to do at a gig is you just turn around to the next person and say, "What do you reckon to the band?" And they go, "Oh, someone's talked to me. Brilliant, they're ace."
I've got to say, I mean, that's certainly how I found, you know, many of my early friends in my late teens and early 20s. I think as people get older, maybe they feel a little bit more uncomfortable with that idea. But I definitely met 2 or 3 of my very best friends in exactly that way, going to see bands who I had nobody to go with. And I went on my own, and then you see the other freaks and weirdos there who've got no mates. You know, you become mates with them.
As a quick tangent on that, that's how I got to know Noel Gallagher. He's just a kid going to gigs in Manchester, and I just said, "Oh, you go to a lot of gigs, mate. I've seen you a lot of things. What do you reckon to the band?" And it was like that. He's going, "Oh, quite like this." And you talk about music. Oh, God, he knows a lot about music. For somebody at that time, I thought he was way younger than me, but he's only 6 years younger than me. But but that's how we all got to know each other in Manchester. And he still really treasures those days. And he always says, "Oh, what happened to so and so?" You know, one of his memories of Manchester are he calls it the Manchester 50, the 50 people who went to every gig in town, because that's how few venues there were then. There's only 3 venues. So you see everybody all the time, because now with 50 venues, it's spread a bit more thinly. But then it was just like this community that moved from one gig to the next.
Yeah. And John, no room for false modesty here. I mean, I've seen you perform live with your second big band, as it were, Goldblade. I don't think I ever saw the Membranes, but I saw Goldblade. Both bands very well respected, both bands well worth checking out and listening to. With Goldblade, and you tell it with, you know, typical self-deprecating wit in the book, Goldblade nearly had a top 40 hit. It's a great story.
No, it's like, it's just like, it's an example of what it's like in a band, isn't it? The closer, it's like Icarus flying towards the sun, and it the closer you get, then everything melts, and you crash into the sea, and this was our version of a Greek myth, really. But we did have one hit. We got to number 64 with the single, which I'm as a chart kid, growing up in the 70s, I memorized all the chart positions. To actually have a chart position was a big deal for me. That was, wow, look at me, I'm in the Guinness Book of Hit Records. I'm actually in there. Look, 64. But we nearly had a second hit, so we did this track called Hairstyle, which was like a novelty song. We just put in our second album. And we thought, and the lyrics weren't about your haircut, they're actually about oral sex. We thought, well, it don't really matter because it's never, this is just a novelty song stuck on the end of an album. No one's ever going to notice. But then the record label said, oh, this is like a really good single. You should put that out. And we go, well, all right then. I hope nobody actually looks at the lyrics, but okay. So they put it out. Didn't expect anything. Then it's getting daytime Radio 1 play. We get for 2 weeks, we're getting played on daytime Radio 1. And then we get on the Anton Deck show, CD UK, which has 3 million viewers, with Cat Deely, one of your lots, presented. They were super nice. They were such nice people. So we get on that. It's full of boy bands, and us just totally out of place. We're sharing the dressing room with this boy band from Liverpool. We thought they were E17's roadies. We're going, you're not a boy band. You're dead ugly. They're going, and power to them. They go, yeah, we know we are. We're rubbish, but we've just been number one on the album charts. We're just taking this for what we can get. And then we do a little line check. They check all the camera angles. We did that bit. Then they ask for your lyrics. We go, oh, no, now we're really stuffed. But they crossed out lyrics, but they crossed out the wrong ones because you're singing live and the band's miming. Then I forgot anyway because you're so excited. You just sing the song like normal. So we're doing it, and all the kids are going crazy. And it's like, and then we go, wow, we've really broken it here. This has got to be a top 40. So we wait till Wednesday or whatever the day it was to get the midweek chart position. The record label rings up, and we go, well, wow, where is it in the charts? They go, we've just gone bankrupt. When we didn't press any more records. They pressed about 500 CD singles, and that was it. So we didn't get in the charts. We didn't have a record deal. And the whole thing, all the way up to the banging on the door of the top 40, we're back down at the bottom with absolutely nothing. So like I'd done the first gig we played, when everyone else was completely disconsolate because it was so crap. And I was going, yeah, let's carry on. It's like that. I was just going to the band. Everyone's like, wow. That was so disappointing. I was going, let's get back in the rehearsal room. Let's go and make another record. Without them, they can't beat us. And that's when we did Do You Believe in the Power of Rock and Roll? Because that was our rallying call, to ourselves. And I was prepared to roll my sleeves up and go right back to the bottom and work back up again. I'm not onto U2's level, but I think you have to be very undaunting and have a very thick skin to be in a band.
Yeah, you could have been contenders, John. John, one final thought, and as we're speaking, you're in the dressing room because you got a talking Chorley, so I won't keep you too long.
Yeah.
But one thing as well that shines through is your belief in the power. Oh, what's that?
It's a vegan Chorley cake. They made specially
because you are a vegan, which is a good thing, and you don't drink either. It should be.
I don't drink either.
You were straight edge before straight edge had even been invented.
I'm friends with Ian Mackay. It's funny. I told him that. I said I'm not straight edge. No way, man. He's not. He hates the term straight edge as well. He wrote a song just saying he wrote it when he was 17. That's why it's a silly word. Well, it's not silly, but. The notion of the song was, I'm as punk as you are, and I don't need to drink to be a punk. It's a 17-year-old kid's song. Then it turned into religion in America, isn't it? And this idea that the idea of not drinking is invented by Ian Mackay is a bit daft, isn't it, really? I mean, but he's a great guy, Ian. He's good, he's funny.
Yeah.
I keep trying to come on, Ian, get out of retirement. We need you now. This is your moment. You're the spokesperson of the anti-Trump world, like the rest of us have to do, don't we? We defeat the far right drifting world with our optimism and ideas, don't we?
Well, we hope so. We hope so, John. In terms of the power of music, though, I mean, you managed to get together this incredible. It wasn't quite Live Aid, the day the music died, as I think you describe it. But you did get together this all-star group to campaign on behalf of the victims at Hillsborough. A tragic injustice which went unacknowledged for years by the mainstream media in the UK. But all credit to you. You managed to get that show on the road with people like...
Well, Peter Hooton from The Farm, it was his idea. And Peter's an amazing bloke. And The Farm, doesn't matter whether you like the music or not, the stuff they do is incredible. They're a cultural force. They make films. They do a lot of cultural stuff in Liverpool, and smart, intelligent guy. So Peter did this gig in Liverpool, this Don't Buy the Sun gig, and it's for Hillsborough 96, now 97. Because he knew Mick Jones, he got Mick to come and play Clash songs. Mick would never play Clash songs, but he came down to do it for nothing, for the cause. And I was a compere, so that's how I was in on it. They needed a compere, so I went down there. And I was thinking, I felt a bit awkward. You know, it's a very Liverpool event because it was not a national cause then. This is that night. It was in this amazing venue in Liverpool, Olympia, and it's about 3,000 people in there, and it's super scousy, very Liverpool, very emotional. I thought, oh God, they're going to think, what's he doing here? If he's from Manchester, and he's like a fraud, you know, that's what they're thinking. But I was down with the cause. Of course, I'm down with the cause. Because I went on there, and then they're just going crazy. Everyone's like, people hugging like mad, you know, like people in tears. It's one of the most emotional gigs I've ever been to, and they're going, thanks for coming over and supporting us. I was going, I'm just a compare, you know, it's Peter's gig, and Jonesy's doing the Clash songs that, you know, they're giving a lot more than I could give. But then after the gig, I was saying that was an amazing gig. We should do more of these. And then that kind of formulated out to doing a tour. So they did this mad tour, brilliant tour. Did about 20 gigs in it, and they were called the Justice Band. And the idea was, and if it didn't fall apart, which I think people run out of time there, but the idea is what you could call, you know, like the Knights of England are buried underneath Glastonbury, and England's darkest peril, the couple galloping to save it. The idea of the Justice Band was, if you needed a cause, the Justice Band would come and play your cause, and there'd be Nick Jones, the Farm, whoever was around would be in that band, and they'd come and raise you money for your thing, and they would be doing it purely for the cause, and that was it. I mean, no one ever got paid for this tour. Nobody wanted to get paid for this tour. And all our job was to entertain the troops. So it's to vibe up the people in the city, and also the people on the campaign. The campaign was won by the mothers. It wasn't Peter, who would never claim he won this campaign. He was just, we were the court jesters entertaining people. And it was the mothers of the victims of Hillsborough that eventually, after about 20 years, shamed the government. And they still haven't really nailed the people who, you know, the people in power at that time were so criminal what they did and that thing. It doesn't matter if you're a Liverpool fan, West Brom fan, a Blackpool fan, all football fans. Could have been any team in that cup semi-final. Probably not Blackpool, but we wouldn't have got that far. But could have been anybody that ended. It could have been anybody's disaster, and we would have been out there for them. So that tour was amazing. They got really great guests every night, including Stone Roses on stage, Ian and John on stage for the first time in 16 years, which is incredible, you know. So. And we did Heaton Park with Stone Roses, 75,000 people, and I'm singing Rock the Casbah and diving into the crowd. It's so fantastic. Mick Jones was laughing his head off. At one gig, the Farm's guitar player had to go for a piss on the stage. I've never seen. Have you ever seen anybody any gig ever go for a piss? I was going, wow, you can't. This is what I've always seen go for a piss. And he gave me his guitar and said, you just fill in for me. I was going, oh shit. I didn't know the song. It's a Clash song. I mean, I was watching Mick's hands guessing the chords. We could do it back to front. Then Mick noticed me watching his hands, and Mick likes to have a little bit of a jam. He's a great muso, isn't he? So he likes to do a bit of the guitar thing. Like he'll go ding, 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 and you'll almost go ding, 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 like that. And he's looking at me, nodding on. Come on, let's do the thing. I'm not fucking out. I can't fucking do that. I can't play those kind of guitar solos. And he's just laughing his head off. So there's a lot of fun in that tour. There's also an important tour, and it gave music a reason. That's how I kept saying every night. This is great. We're doing this for a reason. We're not here. We're here for a party and a good time, because that's what you should be doing in music. But also, music should also have a social reason to exist, and it doesn't have to be earnest. Doesn't have to be serious. But like I was saying before, we were the court jesters entertaining the troops, and that was our role. And it was a brilliant role to have, and it's an amazing tour. I mean, I met Andy Burnham once. I met all them people. Andy Burnham would come out every night, do his speech, crowd be booing, because he's Everton and that, and within 1 minute he won them over, you know, because he's a genuinely nice bloke, you know, and he's not faking it, but he's into football. He is into football, you know. He's not one of those politicians who pretends to support a team, pretends to like music. He actually is the real deal. So all those guys, Steve Rotherham, all down. It's a really great little travelling circus, that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, and certainly vouch for Pete Hooton, who I've interviewed on my Substack, and saw the Farm playing the Byline Festival last year as well, and put out a very decent album last year as well. Listen, John, it's been great to chat with you.
Yeah.
The book is Punk Rock Ruined My Life and Other Stories by John Robb. It is 100% recommended by yours truly. Loads of great stories in there, and written as always in John's 300 miles an hour style, which I wish I could emulate, but I can't. We're all different. Listen, good luck with your gig tonight, John, and I'll hope to see you soon. All right, man.
Thanks, Adrian.
See you later.
Yeah, appreciate that. Thanks a lot then. Bye-bye.